Aw, I was just talking about you, Melissa. Like she was with Courtney and you the other day.
Yep.
Because I wear dresses all the time now. Huh?
Aren't they great? They're like, they're fancy PJs.
I know, you know, when we were in Hawaii, that's all I wore. So I was there used to that for like 3 years, right? And then I came back to the mainland and I just kept wearing dresses. And then I kept thinking about how great you always look. And I just, and then I was telling Courtney, I'm like, you know, Melissa probably doesn't know how much she's like helped me, I don't know, do something that I enjoy, because and Courtney now wears dresses all the time. She lives here now and we wear dresses all the time. And people everywhere we go, people are like, where are you going? Are you going to church? Did you come from a funeral? Are you going somewhere special? And we're like, no, we just wear dresses. And they're like, you look so great. And what they don't know, it's like, you don't have to coordinate anything. It's a oneer. It's on and off. It's like you said, it's the lazy man's
PJs, good looking fancy PJs.
Cindy and Susan. Hi. Nina, Shauna. Who else we got?
I don't know. Let's see. Let's scroll to Sandra and Shauna and
Jason, yeah, I think how I can fix this.
Somebody else.
I'm like, it won't.
Oh, I'm feeling so. Come to Jesus talk.
Right? Okay. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and start the recording. Hey, everyone. Good afternoon. It is Jess Markowitz, your Superstar Director, and we're here with our amazing upline Superstar Director, Becca Levie. Today is July 6th, and I am so blessed to be in her beautiful ranch house. And we're just relaxing and enjoying all of the blessings that God has given her for all her hard work and this amazing direct sales business. So I asked her if she would be so kind to come on and answer some questions about leadership and why we should build a huge organization and an empire with Scentsy, and what her initial vision was, and we'll just go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and ask everybody. I'm going to try to mute everybody, but if you're not muted, can you please mute yourself? And then we will unmute you if you have a question. So I would just like Becca to start out with her story of how she started Scentsy, because I don't think we've ever heard that on our call. Just to kind of, I'm actually right here in her small town of how many?
200. Well, we lived in a town of 250, and here we're only like maybe 60.
Oh my gosh, yes. And so I'm firsthand see how tiny this little area is and how she still grew a huge business within 6 months just by getting out and plugging these warmers in. So I'm going to let you take over and share that story, because I think it's so amazing.
Okay, well, I know so many of you, like, and several of you are like super close here. Where's your cute husband? She probably can't answer me. Huh?
Ralph, yeah.
Ralph. Hi, Ralph. And so I feel like some of you know my story. So I hope that if you do, it's just a fun refresher course. And people used to always say that if I would do direct sales, I'd be really good at it. And I tried a few direct sales company and like lasted 2 weeks. I just tried Mary Kay. I lasted like 2 whole weeks because I love the business model so much. And you can't beat the business model. And Scentsy honestly has the most generous compensation plan and the easiest. So easy. So many others, it's really like Tetris and placing everybody in the right place. And we don't have to do that. So I'm really grateful for the man upstairs who encouraged me to do this. And it really was life-changing. So I understood the business model. You've heard me say this probably many times before. I knew I had personally talked to women in direct sales that made $50,000 a month. And so I had that in my belief system. And that's so important. You probably hear Jess and everybody talk so much about the most important thing to do is work on your belief system and your mindset, because your mind can only achieve what it's willing to believe, right? If you're willing to believe something, then your mind will go to work to help you find everything you need to support it, because whatever we choose to believe, our mind will find facts and people to support that. So I really always say kudos to those of you who get on the calls and get connected with people who have positive belief systems or who are working toward that. So for me to have met people, and you guys have met me, and I'm one of those people now who earn on about average 50,000 a month. Of course, I pay Cali and different things out of that, so it's not 100% take home, but there's more take home than, you know, there's some take home in there that makes life really grand. So I would like, I would ask yourself, what is my belief system and what do I want to work on believing so that you can achieve that? And write that down. They say, if you know, your mind can't hit a target it can't see. So put those where it's at. Now, when I first joined Scentsy, I drove 4 hours in the middle of the winter to go to a meeting. And I'd been to other bigger direct sales meetings or MLM meetings, and the cultures there are so different than Scentsy, right? All the other cultures generally are really like schmoozy, or, you know, really into all of this image and fancy cars and everything, and a lot of positivity, and I love that. Well, I went to this meeting, and it was Karen and Colette were there. Those were the founders of Scentsy, Nicole Furlan, Angie Williams, a bunch of people that had been in with Scentsy, because I joined it after when it was about 4.5 years old. Some of these people had joined it in the first year, and I sat right up front, and I'm not normally a front row sitter. And the people that got up to speak to us that day were like casual jeans and t-shirts, and they were really intimidated, like they were turning red. It was hard to hear them. They weren't real articulate. And my first reaction, I'm not proud of, was like, I drove 4 hours for this. I can hardly hear them. They're not motivating. And I really felt the man upstairs say, no, you need to look at the whole picture here. And the whole picture here is, you don't have to have a personality. You don't have to be vivacious. You don't have to be articulate. You don't have to dress a certain way. You can be successful at this business being whoever you are. And that was such a great insight and such a gift. And so when you are sharing the opportunity with people, you should share with everybody, because when you go to a convention and you see people, you'll see like, oh my gosh, every age, every walk of life. And it's unusual in our industry to find a business that it doesn't matter how old you are or what you look like or how you speak or whatever, that you can be successful, because see if you can fill in the blank. It's the smell that sells. And so with this business, if you just get people trying the products, you're going to end up, if you ask the right questions, with a customer, a host who brings more customers, and or a new business partner. And that means we don't have to do much except for saying, here, try this, give me feedback. And so when we're looking at how to be successful, even if we've been around for a long time, we sometimes forget it's the basics that bring so much success. And it really is just as simple as to get as many people trying it, and your old customers trying out new things and having them giving you their feedback so they buy more, right? So once you get someone on board with sampling one product, you want to just keep giving them borrow bags so they get using every product that we offer. And when I first joined Scentsy, my husband and I had a candle company, and I realized that it was giving me headaches and heartburn. So we made candles, and fragrance bothered me. And so we got rid of our candle company. And so when I felt inspired to join this company, it made zero sense to me, because I knew I didn't like smells. And so I'm really glad, again, I did things out of my comfort zone and didn't just only see it through my tunnel vision, right? And I found out that I shouldn't be selfish. If 97% of homes and offices use our products, then the 3% of us who don't like scent, we shouldn't be selfish. We should serve that 97%. But I will say, right, my whole house smells like Scentsy now because I've found scents over the years that I like. So I knew that if you were going to make that kind of money that doctors and lawyers make, right? If you're going to make that kind of money that I've known other people to make, I knew that it would be in building a team and building an organization, helping other people have their own hobby, their own, whether it's just supporting their addiction. And many times they're the ones that accidentally become business builders too. And then there's those few people who just want to build a business. And the more people you sample to, and the more people you ask the questions, for me, it was like my most important question to ask people was, have you ever wished you had started your own business or owned your own business or had founded the Chia Pet Rock or something like that? And 90% of the people say, yes, yes, I wish that I had started a business or joined that business or did that. And I'd say, well, here's your opportunity with Scentsy. For $99, you get all this product, which we know you like, and you don't even have to like to be successful, to find out if this business could be for you. And so then I would sign up because I totally believed in our opportunity. So if you believe in our opportunity by the success stories that are around you, my husband likes, Terry, as many of you know, he likes to remind me that $200 to $300 extra a month is life-changing for most people. And for most people, that if that's hard, that for them, for me, believing in 50,000 is the same for them. So sometimes we need to start smaller. What would you do with an extra $300 a month? And that's another question I love to ask people randomly. What would you do if your boss came home and told you that you got this $300 or $600 a month raise? And you'll watch people, some will literally do a happy dance. You'll see their eyes light up and go all over. Once they know how cool that would be, then you say, you know what, it's kind of easy to make an extra couple $100 with Scentsy every month with our business in a bag. So I know that these are not new things that I'm saying to most of you. I know that you guys know these things, but just because we know them doesn't always mean we're doing them. And that's why we always harp on them, because if you want this kind of success, then the more you do the borrow bags and ask people these questions that get them emotionally attached, the more you're going to find new business partners and new customers and new hosts, which brings you to new possible business partners. And then you will see that add up. So for me, when I wanted to prove the man upstairs wrong, that I don't like scent, I sold the candle company, this wasn't for me, I'm not a party girl, I'm a pajama girl, I'm a fancier one now, Melissa, thank you, that I wanted to show him that in 30 days that I could have no excuses to go back to him and say, you know what, see, you were wrong, this doesn't work. But actually I was wrong, and I apologize all the time and thank him all the time. So I said I was gonna have 3 to 5 people a day plug in a warmer, because basically that's what we had when I started, was we just basically had the warmers and the room sprays and the car candles. And so which are now scent circles. So that's all I had to borrow bag, right? And I said, I'll do 3 to 5 people a day for 30 days. And I'll ask those questions. And by the end of the 30 days, I was superstar consultant. So I went from new consultant to superstar consultant in my first 30 days. And by the end of February 28th, I was a director. And by the end of that first year, I was a superstar director. And now we're seeing people do those things again. Why? Because they're hungry and they're doing. A lot of people know Jen Audette and they wonder, why is she making $50,000 checks sometimes too on the good months, right? Because anything I was doing, I'd say, do this, she would do it. And so I did 3 to 5 a day, because if I would get 4 no's, but I got the 5th yes, I wouldn't be discouraged and want to quit from the 4 no's. I could focus on the 1 yes. And so that's why it's important to take the massive action and get as many borrow bags as you can out there and as many business in a bags as you can out there, because yes, the majority of the people are going to say, no, not now, right? But if you have enough action and momentum out there, you can run with the yes, and that will be enough. And so I think that's the mistake a lot of people do, is they do the things, but they do it so minimally that they give up before they get enough numbers to start getting the success. Any questions or thoughts at this point? Can you unmute them?
Yeah. Hold on.
I have a question, Ms. Becca.
Hi, Susan. Oh, you muted her again, I think.
I muted you. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. 1 second. Sorry, Susan.
That's okay.
There you go, honey.
No problem. So, as you know, I'm actually obviously revamping myself, and
I
in my,
love your growth, yes.
yeah, I'm extremely excited about what my team's doing, but I feel like I want to start doing more. And with me traveling everywhere, and we don't know where we're going to settle down. I can't get the borrow bags out there because obviously I can't get them back because I'm traveling so much, but I am giving samples and stuff. But when I do get resettled somewhere, what would you say is the best? So you're saying you give more than one borrow bag out. How many typically borrow bags do you put out in a week?
Okay, so let me just give you a clue. When I was that January that was going on and I was doing that, I went to Arizona, I went to Montana because with our lip balm business that we private label, I already had trade shows. So at the hotels I stayed at, I would loan it to the people for a few hours at the front desk. I mean, I was plugging it in everywhere I go. And I think there's an advantage to traveling because you have nonstop new noses that can start you teams wherever you're at. And we ate out all the time because we were traveling so much, right? And I would always play with my testers and have my warmer out on the table. And then usually if you're having so much fun, then people will glance over like, what are you doing? What is that? And I'd say, oh, here, smell this, right? Just whatever they said, I'm like, here, smell this. And to the waitress, here, smell this, right? And I remember for a long time, I carried around a really glitzy, fun purple purse because purple is our color and bling. And people say, oh my gosh, I love your purse. Tell me about your purse. Or where did you get your purse? And I say, oh, that's something I do for my team. What do you mean you do that for your team? You know what I mean? So as many ways as you can get conversations started. And then I'd always say, as soon as they have a question, oh, smell this, because why? It's the smell that sells. And once they're attached to what they would do with money and a smell that they like, the rest is kind of downhill from there, right? Super, super easy. And so no matter what, I'm like, smell this. Oh, what smells do you like? Fruity, flower, clean. Okay, I always had the top at the restaurant or wherever, I'd have my top fruit, flower, and clean smells, or bakery and a bakery, so that whatever they said to me, I say, here, smell this.
So the top smells.
So to me, it's a benefit that you did that. And so then you only plug it in while you're at the dentist office. You only plug it in while you're whatever you're doing. And then another thing that I did was people that I had a business card from that I didn't even really know, I would call them and say, hey, I have your business card. I did business with you once, or you were my neighbor at a trade show, or this or that. And I have this really cool smelly stuff. Do you like candles? And they'd say, I said, you probably don't like candles. I love to say you probably don't, because people always want to say the opposite of what you say. What are you kidding? I'm a candle fanatic. Oh, well, this is even better because there's no flame. Anyways, I would love to send you a warmer and some bars and get your feedback on it. And people say, what? Do you know how much money that costs? Yep, I do. Do you know how much money I make? Because I was willing to invest a little bit in the beginning. But here's the thing. If you're doing parties and getting those free and half price things, then there's no reason why you can't afford that. But if that meant our family didn't eat out on pizza so I could have another warmer to do something with, and those warmers that I sent out, I didn't get back. I'd say, here, tell me what kind of style and colors you like in your house. And I would try to do stuff that matched them. So like I said, the more you're traveling, to me, that's a bonus, not a problem. But yes, and so
if you're I can see if you're driving that not be, but I'm flying, so it's really hard for me to carry all that. So I did make a whole ton of I took all of my testers. I have to start completely over because I took all of them and made the little Ziploc bag with the product sheets and put 4 testers in, and I left them. They've been all over Florida, South Carolina, everywhere I've been. I'm giving them out as like a little extra with their tip. And they'd ask me questions, and then that's when I would get into the conversation with those people. But as carrying all of my testers, that was kind of impossible because I'm flying.
Oh yeah, that's why I said get a couple from the top fragrances and use those, because you know that if they, whatever's most popular at the time, if you give it that category, they're going to like it. Because if you give them a smell they don't like, Like Scentsy used to always send out like lilacs and violets in their kits. And I'm like, don't do that unless they specifically say they love lilacs, because it'll turn most people off. But again, okay, and I'm just going to do this out of total realisticness, right? Because what I heard you say, that's great, but I flew a lot too. And I'd give the hostesses a mini warmer, you know?
Okay.
And in my businesses in a bag, I would do small ones like you. And when I did AdWords, I started doing AdWords for a while, and I would send them a cube of the 3 fragrance categories that they said they liked. And so many people today would say, oh, I remember opening my mailbox, I could smell it, and I fell in love with cinnamon vanilla, or I fell in love with black raspberry vanilla, or whatever. But to me, I hear you feeling like you're still in the mindset of, no, I have these obstacles that are, if I'm driving, okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I flew half the time and I drove the other half the time. So you've got to change the mindset of there are no limits except for the ones that I put on it.
Okay.
And then are you getting those people's contact information that you're giving them to so you can get some more information? But I can't tell you how many waitresses that I've recruited over the time.
Awesome.
So
Thank you.
anything is, no, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you letting me just be flat out. And I think that's the biggest difference, because I always use this analogy. I use this analogy. So that first week that I went up to that meeting, I met Adie Mitchell. If you guys don't know her, she's one of the most funnest people to know. And she'd been with the company 2 years. Oh, income disclosure, people, statement. These are not typical results, because most people won't do what I've done, right? So just want to make sure that we're clear. She'd been with the company. This was her second November check, and it was a $15,000 check. And I thought, oh, I'm going to do that in 1 year. But how am I going to do that in 1 year? Massive action, kind of man up, do the numbers. But the other scenario that I had to think is that if Adie can do it, I can do it, right? If Becca can do it, Jess can do it, any of these people can do it, then you know you can do it too, right? We all have the same opportunity, the same catalog, the same testers, the same everything at our disposal. But you know, horses wear, and we saw some horses today with their fly blinders on. Have you ever seen horses? They put the blinders on them to keep the flies off. And I imagined that everywhere I went, that I had my Scentsy horse blinders on. And so when someone would tell me no, I imagined that no just bouncing off like a fly off of my blinders. And I was only looking for people who had the same kind of hopes, dreams, and mindset that I did. And so if someone said no, I said, okay, their vision doesn't match my vision. I'm just there to find the people whose vision match my visions, that have that same, I wish I had my own business that could make me $50,000 a month, right? That were willing to do some of those hard things. Because why is there only the 2%? They say there's the 2% of Olympians and there's the 2% money makers in the world, because that means 98% of the people we're going to talk to just want to buy it, maybe get it for free, but they certainly don't want to do what it takes. So that means 98% of the people you talk to are going to be bouncing off because their vision doesn't match yours. So you're just like, no problem. Their vision just doesn't match mine. Their life's journey doesn't match mine. My job is to find those people who do. And I will only find that by taking massive action and talking to and asking enough right questions. And that's why if 98% of the people aren't going to be a 2%er, if you don't know that, you're going to get discouraged. And that's why you have to be willing to realize it's going to take a lot of people that you talk to. But you only need a couple people like you to make really good money. They say you're always one person away from changing the whole face of your business. Some of you may have heard me say, we go to the mastermind event almost every year, where people from all over the world, mostly from MLM, some direct sales, come and they share best practices. Everybody's incognito. Nobody wears any of their companies, so you feel safe going. You're not going to be poached. You're just going to see what's common in the industry and what the common best practices are. And I think it was my second year of attending, and they pulled up, I think it was 15 individuals, 15 or 20, and everybody had been in the business anywhere from 2 to 40 years. So they've been in this career path for 2 to 40 years. And they asked them a couple questions. Now, the key was each of these people had to be generating $1 million in commission minimum a year already. So that qualified them as experts, don't you think, in this business? And they asked them some questions. And like I said, some had been there a year, some 2, some up to 40. It was a good range. And they said, out of your $1 million a year, how many of your legs, you know, leg is underneath each person, like you hire people and whatever their team is, how many of those people that you've sponsored? And on average, people had sponsored 250 people. Now I've sponsored 400 personally. But on average, they had sponsored 250. One had sponsored around 350. One had sponsored 55 and found that. They said, okay, out of all those people that you've sponsored, how many of them are responsible for your income? Like, how many of those legs contribute to the majority of your commissions? And the average of all those people was one person. That's it. So you're really only one person away. Now, in my organization, I have three legs that are pretty equal. I personally love that. If something happens to a leg, I've still got 2 other strong ones, if that makes sense. So really, you're just looking for those 1 to 3 people who can totally change the face of your business. So if you just realize it's like looking for a needle in a haystack, but the needle is there to be found, you won't give up until you make it happen. And all of you who promote to director, you're not in my paying generations anymore. So I'm not saying this because I want to make money from you. And I always think that's real important. Now, if you were, I'd be really happy too. Sometimes you roll in, but like lots of times you're out. So I'm just saying this because why keep all of this precious joy and opportunity to myself? So I'm always willing to talk to anybody and just say, here's the hard facts that you just have to be willing to put your blinders on and look for those 2%ers who are just like you. And when we get discouraged, when someone, I can't tell you how many people that joined my first year that even made sensational level 3 that were gone before the first year was over. So some of those people that looked like they were going to be lifers with me and do all that, they got sidetracked and they're not even here. And when I see them, they go, are you still doing Scentsy? Scentsy's doing that good? Oh, I hate myself right now. My sister-in-laws tell me all the time, oh, when you brought over that little pot and the little wax, why didn't I have your vision? You know, I say it's not too late. Every year we get new people who join Scentsy, and within a couple of years, a lot of them are between 10 and 30,000 a month. Now, money isn't everything, guys, right? So I don't want you to think that, but you know what it can do? For me, it pays a lot of tithing, a lot of charity. I can spoil my kids and my grandkids, and we can travel anywhere. And just the bottom line is it takes money to put gas in your car. It just takes money to do anything. So there's no reason not to have it and be able to bless your loved ones and help out others.
So you were talking to me recently about how right now we're kind of like in another growing, kind of like 2011.
2008.
2008.
So this is terrible, but about 8-9 months ago, Terry and I said, the world needs another crisis because then Scentsy will have another big boom. We had no idea how powerful we were. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, we had nothing to do with it. But because when the economy is chugging along really good, people are happy to buy. They don't even need to host as many parties because they'll just buy it outright. They don't need it for free. And they certainly don't need a side gig or hustle or extra income. But when the economy goes crazy, then their plan A is all they had and they don't have a plan B. And now they can't afford to buy what they used to. So it's great for every buy, host, join part of our business. And as we see it, it's a crazy time. If you want to build your business, there's not a better time than right now because people are all in those 3 categories. And it's just like, our group is back up to 25,000 and we've had over, I think, 8,000 join in the last couple months in group Make It Happen. Just to give you an idea how many people are joining. Yeah, I bet we've had over probably close to 80,000 people now join underneath me, just me. I was one little consultant with a dream. that have come into the organization, and they come and they go. I've had several frontline superstar directors that were making thousands of dollars a month and decide to leave for one reason or another. One, the husband was very insecure. She could support herself. She had a positive community, and he felt threatened, and so she had to quit to save her marriage. We had someone who thought the grass was greener on another side, and they went. In my Jen Audette's leg, one time we lost to Old Chalky. We lost like 9 or at least 9 directors, maybe more. So people have come and gone, people who shouldn't have, and you can still stay super successful. You just roll with the punches. Because yep, there's all these ups, and then they'll be down, and then there'll be ups, and they'll be down. So I always tell people, never quit when it's down, or you're going to miss the up. And then in the up, if you want to quit, quit. And they're like, why would I quit when it was up? Exactly.
Right. So how often should somebody train themselves about mindset on a personal level in order to help them think more like a business builder and an owner?
So for me, as you've heard me say, little itty bitty icky committee, or Mitch calls it the little itty excuse committee.
Yeah.
That cracked me up.
Yeah.
Is so loud. Like, I have such anxiety and so much fear of rejection and so much whatever, that for me to do what I did, I have to listen to it in between, like driving and when I'm doing my dishes and whatever. Because for me, it's not easy. I think there's this oppositional force that whenever we try to move forward positively, tries to drag us back. And so it gets louder when we try to do these things. Like if you got off the call here and you're like, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to demo this many bags or this whatever, then you're going to do that. And all of your insecurities are just going to grow. And so I have to listen constantly to people who are successful and say, look, someone else said it was worth it. It will make it happen. Even when I was starting to make over $10,000 or $15,000 a month, I still today, that little itty bitty icky committee wants to win. And so whenever I'm really in the hustle build mode, I have to listen all the time. And my favorite quote that I had plastered everywhere was, if I just do the things highly successful people do, I'll be highly successful too. So that doesn't mean I have to be dressed right or cute or say the right thing. Because again, we're looking for those people with the same vision. And I really believe everybody has sort of callings on their life. And so if they're supposed to be part of Scentsy culture and have a stewardship and lead other people, they will, they'll feel attracted to it. Even if it takes them 2 years. Because 3 weeks before I joined, I would have bet anybody $50,000 I would never have joined. And 3 weeks later, I was singing a whole nother tune. So timing for people is everything. So no really truly generally means not now. So here's the thing too that I want people to know. I didn't do it by myself. I did all the hard work by myself. I sponsored 400 people all by my little Becca Levie plus God himself, right? I mean, God, not me, God, but I did that. Callie was a consultant and she hated that. And when I needed help, so I had 4 assistants at one time, and then I finally brought her on virtually. About 3 years ago, she finally, like, as you've seen, she's blossomed. I think we build this kind of business so that we work really hard, we push ourselves, we do things, we have a support team. So then we can go to the next phase of our life and do things that are fun and that give back, like my Suicide Awareness Foundation and all the stuff I've been doing before COVID with that. So while I worked like a crazy woman for those first 2 to 4 years, I did that so I didn't have to work like that the rest of my life. And so now Callie's up in the forefront and she's putting in her sweat equity. So I pay her a salary and she gets whatever she continues to keep alive and managing by doing most of the work, a lot of the work now, at least 75%, but I hire her assistant. So the point is, not even she still does it. She's got me, she's got her assistant and herself. So there's that money that makes us $150 to $200 an hour, and it is not labeling catalogs and organizing orders. If you're putting more time into your office and into putting together all your borrow bags, unless it's during your TV time or whatever, that is not going to make you the money. So I hired people to do a lot of that stuff, because there's a time in your life where there won't be a lot of balance, right? Because you're so busy doing the massive action to hurry and build, find those 2 to 3 leaders so that you can start to manage it. No, if you look at anybody who's honest, that has their whole life put together, they have a team, they delegate, they hire a housekeeper, they hire, you know, I always love to bring up this, I'm sure you've heard a million times, when Jess said, I really needed to get rid of some crap in my life, literally the dog crap from their big dogs in their backyard. They hired somebody, $50 a month or something. I mean, that's a bargain.
Yep.
And it freed up so much time and so much contention, arguing with who in the house was going to do it, whatever. And with all that energy and positivity and lack of argument, she had more quality time with her family and more time to work her business. And so if you're new or you feel like you're limited, your income is limited to doing some of those things, I would bring new team members over. And while they heard me doing what I do best, getting people thinking and talking and asking those questions, they would be doing my dishes or labeling the catalogs, and then they would get training at the same time. And I would give them product to put into their borrow bags so that they could duplicate those most successful actions, those income producing actions. And then they would get going good with their business. And so they wouldn't last very long, because now they wanted to do what I was doing, and I'd bring in someone new. So wherever there seems to be an obstacle, quit looking at the door that's closed and look at the door that's open. And if you're not sure, if you ask out of yourself, the answers will always come. Dale Carnegie said, the moment you commit and quit holding back, all sorts of unforeseen incidents, meetings, tools, and materials will basically seem to magically appear to help you reach your goal, because the power of committing is a magnet for the help that you want. So if you're committing to not doing well, you're going to get all the support you need to not do well. And if you're committed to doing well, you're going to get all the things manifest to succeed. And Susan, you remind me of this so much. Like, I would be, if I were you, I'd be so proud of myself. One of the things that I learned at that mastermind event was one successful woman, and they only had extremely successful people on that stage, because they pulled from hundreds of thousands of people all over the world to come to share best practices on this stage. And I'm so excited to say I got to be on that stage with also like the author of Go for the No, and the authors of Bob Goff.
Wasn't Jordan Adler there too?
Yeah,
Or
Jordan
Beach Money?
Adler, Beach Money, like all of these people. Dang it, I shouldn't have gone off track like that. Oh, mastermind this woman. Okay.
Yeah.
She said, and this, you know, because I came to Scentsy and I seemed to like, I skyrocketed. And she said, if you ever see anybody that comes into a business and skyrockets, it's because they've already had enough life experiences where they chose to have a positive attitude, chose to believe in limitlessness, like groomed themselves mentally to be able to take an opportunity and go right to the top. And she said in her like 30 plus years, she has seen that most people who join a direct sales or MLM company have no business experience, definitely haven't had probably much positivity in relationships, friendship, family, or anything, right? So they're starting at ground zero. And if those people stick around long enough and plug into the events and to the positive people who have the success that they are dreaming was possible for them, if they will do that, it usually takes 7 to 15 years of being connected between their mindset changes enough that once it all finally clicks and then they have that hope and belief enough to start taking the action, they will then skyrocket from that 7th to 15th year, like the person who came in that was already mentally prepared. So when I see people in our business that have been around 7 or 8 years and they keep showing up and they keep growing up in their mindset, start to have success, I'm like, yep, that's what she's talking about. So don't give up on the people who seem like they're never going to get it, because if they keep exposing themselves, they probably will. And I think, Susan, you're a great testament of that. And I know as you keep doing that and just refusing to give up on all the blessings that are yours to go after, that you will be one of those success stories. So just keep it up. Just keep it up.
So I can validate all of this, you guys. I just want to share that one of the things that, because I was that person that never had any business experience, sales. I mean, I didn't know how to run a business. I didn't know how to help other people and coach. And there were so many skills that were just not in my Rolodex at all. And I remember thinking about and having this conversation with Becca of like, so, wow, you became a superstar director in a year or less than a year. And how is that possible? And she reminded me that she had already owned businesses and she had life under her belt that she was able to just slide into those slots. And that's why I always tell you guys to the education and the career experience that you have, you can put that into your business and that'll help you excel in areas that other people may not have. And so that was me being able to validate like, okay, so I am starting from scratch. So as long as I'm okay and I stick around long enough, which I'm that person that just kept going and falling on my face and getting back up and falling on my face and getting back up. And the trust is there. Like Becca was saying from the very beginning, if you truly believe that it is absolutely possible for you, then you will get there. Because did I ever think I'd have a housekeeper to scrub my toilets? Did I ever think I would be able to pay somebody to pick up my dog poop? Did I ever think that I'd have a full assistant that would do all the stuff that I hate to do? But because of Becca saying that, spend the time with your team members and that's making you money and helping them make money, sacrifice that little bit of money that you want to put in the bank and give it to somebody else. And I love the thought of being able to employ other people, giving other people jobs. That came from Becca. And that's where my heart is serving people, helping people. And even though I wasn't making, hundreds of thousands of dollars from the very beginning, it made me feel good that my house cleaner had a job, and it was because of our family. That person that's picking up my poop is giving them food on the table, and that was because of Scentsy. And that was building my confidence that, you know what, I can serve people. I can build this business to where I want it to be. So, and it started out with paying my assistant with Scentsy, and I went through assistant after assistant because I did exactly what Becca said. Just like she said, that if you do what other successful people do and you trust it, you may go through trial and error over and over. It may not pan out exactly like the way it's her journey, right? It's not going to be exact. That you're going to go through different assistants, which I did because they were listening to my calls, and those people have become directors. Like Liz, if you guys are in our leadership program, that she's doing this program with me, she became a director the few months that she was working with me because she was listening to training calls and doing the things that I was doing. She was making join packets for me. So she knew that I always had join packets on me at all times. And I was basically killing two birds with one stone. I was training one person. Meanwhile, I was training her, and she was helping my business grow by doing all the stuff that I hated to do. And that's what you do, is you pay people to do the things that you don't want to do and you're not good at. And she was good at those things. And all my assistants, the assistant I have now, she's good at marketing. She's good at mailing stuff and all that. And I hate that stuff. And so she does it for me, which opens up time for me to be with Becca and my baby and be in this beautiful home that God has blessed.
So I used to be this huge control freak, and I felt money was super tight, and like no one would do it the way I did it. And so I wasn't going to give my precious money to people who weren't going to do it my way anyways, right? And one of the things that Terry and I did, we lived in a single wide trailer. Somebody came by and shot it up. We drove an old vehicle. We took every penny we had and we put it into trainings and books and CDs and all of those sorts of things. And our family gave us a bad time. You guys, they kind of considered us white trash. They don't sing that song anymore at all. But we knew that we had a plan, and the plan was to sacrifice now, put our money into the business, and one day we would be able to have what we know is possible in America. And, but we went to this event and this event and this keynote speaker, and it didn't have anything to do with direct sales or MLM. It was, so this was way before Scentsy. And he said, if you wait till you can afford help, you will never afford help. If you wait till you can afford it, you'll never. So you've got to make those sacrifices now and get that help. And then here's the thing. God's universe supports whatever we believe, and actions show our beliefs better than anything. And you know what? There were times when my family, like Callie and Courtney, would hide my phone, and they would say I was selfish, and they would say, you know, that this was never going to work. And Terry was a little bit nicer about it. He's like, you're spending more. This happens for other people. It won't happen to you. It never happens to the ordinary people, right? And now Callie's grown up in it, and her best friends are all over the world. And she has this life and career that at one time she was trying to sabotage. So even if your kid's on board now and your husband's not on, so as a true leader, not only for your organization, not only for your customers, but sometimes for your family, you are truly leading the way, because a leader is usually the one in the front that has the vision that everybody else is trying like to pull you down, whether they love you, they're trying to save you from disappointment, whatever it is. So it's super hard that sometimes you're the only one with a vision. And that's why it's important to listen to other people who are where you want to go and listen to them. Because I would get so hurt and so angry, and I'd have to, my itty bitty committee wanted to jump right on board with the rest of the family and the people and say, this just never works. And I remember one time at a restaurant sitting with my sister-in-laws and brother-in-laws, and they were all doing way better than us because they had jobs and they were doing all this stuff that was better than my house cleaning and Terry's construction at the time. And they're like, what are you going to do when it doesn't work out with Scentsy? Then what are you going to do? You know? So, I mean, people aren't always kind for whatever reason. And that's why you want to associate with the people who are saying, you know what, I have a big itty bitty committee too, but it's not who I'm listening to. And I need you to help me be part of the cheer squad and make things happen. So don't wait till you can afford it, or you never will. And as a leader, you have to hold the fort down in the vision often. And then it was really helpful for me at one point when I went and visited Adie Mitchell at her house and a couple other leaders, and they said, oh yeah, when I first got on board, my husband was so mad at me. Now, by the time I joined, the husband was there. Yeah, you know, they were like this powerhouse Scentsy couple, and they were just like singing Scentsy praises, and that's what you saw. And you're thinking, why can't my husband be that cool, right? Mm-hmm. Only to find out that until the checks started coming in, their husbands weren't that cool either. You know what I mean? So I hope it helps that you realize if you face any of these scenarios that it is a time, a numbers, a season game. Only look for the people with your vision. I love this saying, if you have to convince them to join, you'll have to convince them to stay. And there should be no convincing, right? There should be no convincing. Just keep your blinders on until you find the people whose vision aligns with yours.
For a long time, I was the only one with the vision for a good amount of time. And Mitch, when I'd flip parties and be gone, and, you know, we'd assign somebody up and he'd say, but wait a minute, you get 25, 30% off of that party, but you're giving that party away. Are you crazy? Because we needed money now. And I had to tell him, just trust me. I promise this is going to be way bigger in the future than you and I can ever imagine. And when I would get my itty bitty committee, and I felt like I wanted to, just throw in the towel because my husband was on me and we just weren't making the money yet that I knew was possible, I would plug into one of Becca's calls, or I'd call her directly and say, hey, I need somebody to lift my spirits up. And I remember one of the calls that it was a year into my business, and I was making great money, but I wasn't breaking the next threshold, which was really frustrating me. And I called up Becca and I just said, I just feel like no matter what I do, how hard I work, my paycheck doesn't grow, and it's a great paycheck, but I need it to be bigger. And she just said, you just got to keep doing what you're doing and just keep pushing. And before you know it, the reason why that you feel this way is because you're about to have an explosion. And most people quit when things start to get shaky and you know, those growing pains. That's when the average person quits. She said, are you going to be the average person? Or are you going to be the one that pushes through? And I was like, well, shoot, I'm not going to be an average person. And she was absolutely dead on. That fall, my business just skyrocketed, and other people's businesses skyrocketed in my organization. And that's something I always think of whenever I have any type of, you know, I'm not sure about something in my business. I just always remember that, you know what, the only person that's going to be successful and make it to where the next level, wherever my life I want to go, is the one that just keeps going. Because everybody that knows me knows that I've had plenty of reasons to just say, you know what, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I mentally and emotionally can't, but I've worked so hard to get to where I am. And the coolest thing about this business is there's always another level. Even Becca's level, where she's at right now, we can all say, oh my gosh, I can't imagine even being there. But we have to imagine that, because even Becca has another level. That's the way this business is built, is there's no cap. The only cap is the one that we put on it ourselves. So does anybody have, oh, we've got some questions here. Thank you so much for addressing the issues you've had with your families, giving you grief. You're singing my song, and it's great to know that they're hurdle and not roadblocks. Awesome, Nadia. Yes. Oh my gosh. You got to have the bigger picture. And one thing that I love is now I get to see Becca with her kids. Like Courtney just moved back to right here where Becca lives, and they have the most beautiful relationship. And when Courtney was in high school, she was mad because Becca was traveling. She barely saw her. She missed out on prom and all the things that moms want to be able to be around. But she had a bigger vision for her family, because she wanted to sacrifice that time so she wouldn't have to sacrifice any other time. Now she sees her every day. They go shopping together, and she's, you know, they spend every single day together, and she can do that. And she has the means to help her do things that she wants her to do. If she didn't make that sacrifice, most people don't think about later on. They think about their kids, and believe me, absolutely, children need you. That's what this business is for. But you also have to think about the future. Yes, we don't want to miss their first steps and all that fun stuff. But guess what? If you're working for somebody else, you're going to miss their first steps too. And so if you sacrifice the time well, here's the thing. Even if you're sacrificing, you have the right to say, okay, but this I'm not willing to sacrifice. Like, it's my kids, whatever. But if you have a bigger vision, later on, you're going to live a life like people only dream of. Because Becca doesn't have anybody, an alarm clock buzzing her to wake up or telling her that she needs to go anywhere. To be honest with you, this is the kindness of her heart that she logged on at the same time, but she doesn't have a time that she clocks to, because she built that business and that dream. And the one thing I want you guys all to know is that every single consultant on this call has the ability to create that for yourself.
And you have the ability to make more than I do. Like, I make more than 80 now. You know, who would have dreamed?
We were just talking about that's what got her realizing that's the possibility. Well, she wanted that. And now she makes more money than the person that inspired her. So all of you can make more money than me. You can make more money than Becca if you make the decision and you put the work behind it. But nobody's drilling cement being a Scentsy consultant.
So Courtney, my youngest, she's getting divorced. So she's wanted to come back here, and I hired her as a personal assistant, and I actually can pay her more than I was making at the time when I was building this business. You know, that's so cool. And we're taking our old homestead and we're totally doing like a, you know, Joanna Gaines flipper flop, right? The whole inside, the whole outside, everything, and all of that's possible. But, you know, I thought it was really interesting because when I was feeling guilty, so when I first joined, I was Mrs. Utah. I had written 2 books. I lived 3.5 hours one way to an airport and 5 hours the other way to an airport. So just getting to an airport to do all the trips and the trade shows. I was doing 48 trade shows a year with our lip balm company. I was already exhausted. I was already going 50 million miles. And so when I felt that prompting to join, I didn't even know where I'd find a second to make that happen. But I found out, Susan, that because I was traveling everywhere and I was staying at hotels and I was doing this, even at a trade show, I'd plug it in my booth and I'd plug it in at the neighbor's booth. I would just, wherever I could plug it in, wherever there was a nose, right? Have it out on the table or whatever. I just took advantage of every moment because my why at the moment was just to prove that I had zero excuse and it didn't work. But what I found out is if you work it, it works. So I felt guilty though, because of all the sacrifice, you know, I was making with my children, with just my other jobs before I added Scentsy. And then I remember, I don't know if you've had a chance to ever hear Heidi tell the story. I don't know if it's even still available, but she was talking about how when they first started Scentsy and they were doing it in that little seed container that you can see if you go to home office. So the little seed container was their whole candle business, and they had 5 kids, right? And they were all really young. And oftentimes they were pouring bars all night long. And so the kids would just sleep wherever, curl up in a corner in the seed container. I remember one night this was before I knew Heidi Norval's story. This is back when we had our candle company, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and Courtney had curled up in a like a Rubbermaid tote, and she was sleeping in it. And the lady that was helping us went and put her own jacket on my daughter. And I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm the worst mom in the world. But then Heidi told similar stories, and they had a teenager, early teen, and they found her New Year's resolution list. And on it, that's Mary, their oldest daughter. On it, her first resolution for the year was to somehow get rid of Scentsy. So if you talk to any of their kids today and their private jet and their parents take them all over the world and can pay for their school and do all those things, and they're going to inherit it and could have a career with them when they want after they've had some life experience, they're like my kids saying it is the best thing on the planet, when for the longest time they thought it was the worst thing. So nothing ever comes without some sort of sacrifice. Now, I really believe that I worked a little bit harder than I needed to, because I didn't trust in the universal or God support, whatever you call it. I think there's a lot more support, and sometimes we try to do too much ourselves. And I had several nervous breakdowns. I remember, because I was just running, and you know, this business, there's a lot of women in it. If you haven't noticed, women have a lot of hormones and they can have some claws, and, you know, I think we should all pray, play, and prosper together. And a lot of people rather just like fight each other. And that was really hard on me too, to learn how to do that, learn how to let people live their own life if they couldn't take my advice, learn all of those different things. But so what I'm saying is that success doesn't look pretty, doesn't look magical. How many of you, raise your hand if you were at SFR last year when the mountain climber, yeah. And remember when he was like blobbering and he was so self-defeated in the camera, and he was like wanting to quit all those times, and he was just looked like, you know, because he was so tired and so hungry and so cold that he didn't even, I think he forgot the whole world was going to see the video, right? But I remember watching him and like crying and just saying, amen, amen, because he was showing what the path to success looks like. Usually we only see the glory moments. They say, oh, it was hard, but they don't show you and show their breakdown like he did. And I just thought he was the coolest dude because he showed those breakdown moments. And I was talking to our graphic designer who knew nothing about my Scentsy business, but I was talking to her about my lip balm business, and I was just at that meltdown point, and I just was crying all day. And she called, and I was needing to show up to answer questions so the people could get their business order in time, and I couldn't speak. I was crying so hard. It was such a rough day that I was like, oh, and then I just handed the phone to my husband. My husband's like, yeah, I don't think can we do this later, because she's not in a good space. So we don't feel strong all the time. In fact, most of the time we feel weak. And I love to remind people that the person that you see today is not the person I was when I started. So when you think you can't show up like maybe someone like me and talk like I do right now, I didn't start out this way. Right? We grow as we go. And as we grow, as we go, we become the person who handles the stewardship of what you want. So if you feel inadequate right now, that's fine. Of course you are. You know, you're not going to go from where you're at to tens of $1,000s a month overnight or over a month. And I will say that along my journey, where my success happened quite rapidly, because I did come in with that mindset work with what's working, not with what's wrong. Let the other people worry about it. And while they're figuring out how to fix what's wrong, I'll work what is right. And then when they fix that, I'll just add that back into the mix, and that gives me more to work with. Does that make sense? Like right now, people go, well, we're out of stock of this, so I can't work my business. Well, when I joined, Scentsy had ran out of 90% of their warmers 6 months before I joined. I didn't know that. So most of my people didn't get their Valentine's warmers and their graduation warmers and all of the Mother's Day things that they ordered. We had to cut out pictures and send it to them, say this is coming, because our company was out of stock of everything. And it didn't, my first year, by the end of the year, my check was $9,978 that last month, 1 month alone, with all of the problems we had. Our first 3 years, Scentsy went from 4,000 consultants to over 200,000 consultants in 3 years. And you order your product 6 months in advance, they could not keep up with it. Like right now, we're going through another growth spurt. They can't keep up with it. Only we have things to work with that we didn't have back then. We have all these other products, so there's always plenty in stock now, and they have limited edition things that we didn't have until just a few years ago. So the fact they have new stock coming in all the time, not just every 6 months, is a huge deal. So nothing, but anyways, I'm on the process. I'm having a nervous breakdown. I'm bawling, I'm pulling out my hair. My family thinks I'm crazy. All of this stuff is going on. And my team is growing massively, but my paychecks are staying the same. Now I'm not doing as much personal sales for my check size. My team's volume is making up for that a lot, but my check was still staying about $2,000 a month. And one day I called Orville. Back then, it was just a lot easier to get a hold of him. And I called him and I'm sobbing. And he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I'm so tired and I'm not seeing my paycheck change at all. People are coming. Yes, my title's changed and people are coming in the sales or whatever, but my check every month is $2,000, $2,300, $2,400. And you're like saying I can make all this money and I don't see it happening. And he said, just hold on, because when the tipping point comes, when that explosion changes, your check won't go up by $20 and it won't go up by $200. It'll start going up by thousands. And I believed him. And a few more months went by and my check stayed at $2,000. About the time I decided, who knows when it was going to change, kind of surrendered to that. I opened up my check and it was $4,000, and then it was $7,000, and then it was $9,000, and then it was $12,000, and then it was $15,000, and it just went from there.
That's how much I was at 2,000 when I called you saying, why can't I make any more than $2,000? Even though people wish they could make $2,000 with Scentsy, but when you know the possibility and you feel like you're working your tail off and you're not seeing the growth, you need somebody to reassure you that, what am I doing this for?
So
again?
Don't spend your time talking to people who say, yeah, I know. It only happens to, Chloe Cox. It only happened to Shannon Grant or Katie Farner or Becca Levie. Won't happen to me. No, we all were created by the same creator. He has no favorites. We just have to choose what we want to receive and believe in. And if our beliefs and expectations suck, we need to work on that. And the most important thing you can do is believe in yourself and believe in the possibilities and keep going and not be too attached to who it is that's going to be your 2%ers. And also realize that with the way our compensation plan is, you need 80% of the people to be, or 98% of the people to be your hobbyist and to not be about building, because you don't get paid on our compensation plan without a whole bunch of TWV and GWV. Do you know what I'm saying? So if everybody was a business-minded person, you wouldn't have enough to make your 2,000 or 6,000 or 10,000 team volume that you need. So when you're a superstar director, all of a sudden now you need 10,000 team volume. You know what I'm saying? So everybody has a place in the circle of life. So don't get discouraged with where people are at. Just keep looking for the people whose destiny is to be 2%er, and trust those whose destiny is supposed to be the 98%ers. And also know that if someone says, sometimes people come in and they're only with Scentsy a short time. And I just have trusted that everybody has a plan for their life, a good, better, and best plan. And if we have a little bit less attachment then we allow not only ourselves to have the best life, but those people around us to have the best life. So don't think we know better than what God's universe has for them, or the universe has for them. Do you know what I'm saying? And stay positive. When people would come on board, it took me a while to learn. Now, obviously I'm Christian. If you're not, I hope you just change the lingo to work for you. But for me, I used to put up with a lot because I thought it was the Christ-like thing to do, the Christian thing to do, right? But what I learned is that enabling people to be negative isn't serving anyone. So I will say to someone that's really negative and saying that, you know, I'd had people say, well, I can sell all day long, but I can't sponsor. I can sponsor all day long and I can't sell. And I'd say, you know what, I can't support you that you're broken. I can't support you that you can't book parties, when not only in Scentsy, but in the whole direct sell industry, hundreds of thousands of people do parties. You're not broken, and it is possible. The only thing that's broken is your belief system about it. So I've had people go from that to becoming directors because I love them enough to say, I can't sit with you in less than what your possibilities are. And I will tell people, if they want to ride the same dead horse, as I call it, with their negativity and their excuses, I'll say, and this is true, I don't have enough time for all the positive things I want to do in my life, so I can't allot any time to negativity. And so if you want to keep riding that negative dead horse, you're going to have to find another riding partner. But if you want to step into what can be true for you and possible, I'm here for you as much as you need. And how does a person prove that they're really in it? Because you give them advice and they go and do it. Because a lot of people, they keep coming to you and saying, well, tell me what to do. And I said, well, did you do what I told you to do before? No. Well, then what would any new information do if you're not even going to do what you did? So when you do this and you get results, and let's talk about what the next best step is for you. So it took me several years to learn to really be a leader that loves people enough to speak the truth. And the truth is, we were all born for greatness. It's just few people believe it and step into it. And as a leader, we have to learn to say, no, you're born for greatness. And if you want to do that, I'm here for you. And if you want to wallow, you're going to have to find somebody else, because I will not serve you in that way.
Wow, so powerful. So often I feel guilty getting someone to clean my house, but it helps so much. So that changed my mindset when Becca said it was, think of it as you're helping employing somebody. That totally changes the whole circumstance of feeling guilty of like, I should be scrubbing my own toilets. But when you think about it, what's wrong with having somebody do something that you when you are trying to build a business, and your talents are better serving other people by coaching them to build their business and money-making activity. And you're also, again, putting food on the table for somebody else because you're giving them a job. That's what really helped me make that decision when she put it that way. I'm fine watching scrubbing my toilets because that's why I'm paying her, so I have more time with my family. So I don't have to work all day or whatever I'm doing, and then I have to go scrub my toilets. Nope, when I'm done, I want to be done and be with my family. And so it's really about that little shift of mindset that really makes everything different. So that guilt just is lost because you feel even more full because you're serving somebody else's family.
I cleaned houses for a lot of years myself, and to a lot of the doctors' wives in like Richfield has 6,000 people. It's where we do our grocery shopping. About 10 years ago, we actually got a Walmart. We have a Walmart. We have a small local grocery store. We still have a small movie theater, which now is closed, you know, old seats, little tiny, you know, creaky or whatever, because we're not a big town. But we have a small hospital, and I clean for most of the doctors in town. And always wish that our family had a doctor's income salary, right? And now when I see them, they'll be like, you know, I never knew you were so tall, because I scrubbed their floors on my hands and knees. They never saw me standing up really when I was at their house. You know what I mean? And now I make as much or more as their husbands do, and their husbands still have to work, and I can have assistance. You know, Callie's grown into this, you know, For 4 years, I tried to get her to do Facebook Lives and she was terrified. And now she does them, and now she's the rock star of them. And I'm still terrified to do them, but she does them enough. It's became her new normal, right? And she's just such a Pied Piper of people. They love her. But she had, I mean, we fought over that, Callie. You need to do Facebook Lives, right? You know, and now she's just a dream. So even if you watch her and wish, boy, I wish I could be like her. We fought over that for quite a few years before she finally started doing it, and it became her new normal, and now she's just comfortable with it. So we all have to find our new normal. We have to do those things. But I was thankful that people let me clean their house, because that's how I earned my money, right? So I could do that. And so here's another interesting thing on this. When I started to make that dream income, as much as I wanted it, I had a lot of emotional issues wrapped around that, right? Am I worthy of that? Well, I don't deserve this. Like I'm not good enough for this. What makes me have a right to make this kind of money? Or when I had the opportunity to eat at a better hotel, you know, restaurant, and eat at a better hotel, or I'd be judgmental, and I would see, remember when we were in Hawaii one year and we went into this one restaurant, and the restaurant had this giant Christmas tree. I bet it was like 30 feet tall, and it was all decked out. And I said, even though I have money, I would never do something like that, right? I'm still judgment. Like there is excess, and then there's excess, right? And I remember on this issue, again, I believe in communication from the heavens, and I was really struggling with that. And the thought came to me that our creator gave all of us different talents. And he gave some people the talent to design gorgeous homes and be 5-star chefs, or to be a great massage therapist, or, you know, to do this. And many of those people pray to their creator too, right? And say, thank you for the talent, and thank you that you send people that I can do what I love and make a good income. And so he said, if you want to be hung up on your little itty bitty icky committee, I'll just send someone else to eat that food and sleep in that bed and sit in that chair and, you know, buy that stuff. Because all of my children, I give them their talents, and they need to make a living, and they all want to make a living doing something they love. So if you're not willing to do it because you're in this like whatever thought process, I'll let someone else. I go, oh, if you put it that way, I'll sit in that chair and I will eat that food, so they can say thank you for giving me these talents, and that I can support my family too. So, and many times I find myself falling back to that habit, like, oh yeah, that would just be too much, you know. And then the thought would came, but God gave them their talents, and somebody has to be their client. So if you can start to just be really aware about what you're self-sabotaging, what your belief systems are. In fact, even after that, for quite a few years ago, last year, Jess and I were somewhere, and there were some important people we wanted to be part of that. And they have such a busy schedule, and they were able to make it happen because they had a private plane. And that weekend they went to 3 weddings because they had a private plane and they could be on their own schedule. And when I saw the impact of them showing up to celebrate a family event, the joy that it gave the family for them being there, I thought, isn't that lovely? We have such an opportunity to show people that all their moments are important. And the only way it was possible was because they had a private plane, a private who could get them to all of those engagements in such a short period of time. And in that moment, I thought it wasn't about them. It was about the service. And I found myself saying, oh, I never thought it was a good thing to have a private plane, but if it could mean I could be to serve and show up and support people I love in a short period of time, then yeah, sign me up for a plane. And so I realize all the time I still have these judgments I shouldn't have that sometimes limit me, because I won't receive them because of judgments. So all the time we want to be letting go of our judgments and seeing the good that it does, the win-win it is for everybody, so that we don't close doors to all the gifts. I'm sure you've heard this story about a guy who dies, and St. Peter starts taking him to where he's going. And on the way, the guy says, hey, St. Peter, what's all those big buildings? He goes, oh, those are warehouses with gifts in them. And the person said, oh, let me see. And St. Peter's, I don't really think you want to see him. No, show me. So they go in, and there's this big warehouse with all of these gifts, all of these blessings, all of this abundance. And all of a sudden the person starts to notice that his name is on all of these packages. And he's like, what is going on? He said, well, these were all the blessings that could have been yours if you just been willing to be open-hearted and open-minded to receive them. And I didn't want to show you because there's a lot of regret you're going to be feeling about now when you see all these warehouses that had friendships and relationships and opportunities and you know, material blessings that could have been yours, but you didn't receive them. And I think that's the oppositional's greatest tool. I mean, just think about it with your kids, you know, how much you want to give them. And if we love our kids and want to give them so many opportunities and so many gifts, and we're just human, think about a creator who has so much more to give and so much more love, and yet we close those doors. And when our kids say, oh, you couldn't possibly love me and want to give me that much, you're like, who told you that? You know, am I making sense? So we really need to work on our value, not only so that we can receive it and be so much more grateful, but all the people we affect. Just like I was saying about Melissa, she doesn't realize how much influence she has and what sweet ideas that she gives to people just by the way she chooses to show up. It's just, you know, it's a simple thing, but we love. I just love that every time I put on a dress, I think of Melissa because she always looks so great and wonderful. And she just one day said, didn't you say you kind of went from wearing jeans and decided I'd wear a dress every day, and it's just changed so much and brings everybody joy. And it was just, we just influence each other for good or for bad. So why not influence people for good?
Amen. She's got 2 questions actually. And then I know we went over, but
I'm sorry.
No, to me, I'm sure if you have to go, it's okay, but I can listen to this woman all day long, and I'm sure you guys can too. Okay. So Melissa said, you mentioned at the beginning how you ask people, have you ever wanted to work for yourself, own your own business, or go into a business for yourself and bet like a cheap, want to make 50,000. How do you segue into Scentsy?
Oh, I say Scentsy is an opportunity that you could have that opportunity for $99. Plus it's a win-win because you're not really out your money because you get all this product. I mean, the whole point is just like, or I'll say to people, like, if I'm doing an event or if I'm standing in a grocery store line, I'll be like, what would you do if you, now we don't stand in grocery store lines anymore, close enough to have these conversations, but I would say, you know, what would you do if your boss told you or your significant other came home and said, guess what, we got a $600 a month raise, what would you do with it? And they all get attached to it. And I'll say, well, our company is expanding. And by doing, you know, 5 to 6 business in a bag parties, you can pretty much earn that much, guaranteed if you're willing to do that. So I'm authentic. I love how 2 people, Jen Audette and Jennifer Crowder. And I'm sure you probably know Jen Audette's name. I'm not sure if you know Jennifer Crowder. She's a superstar director. When she joined, her husband was a pastor, and they had, I don't know, she's had like 8 kids since the time she joined Scentsy, but they were making like $19,000 a year and basically starving. And then all of a sudden she's making 15, 20, 30,000, right? And she was doing all these parties. And I hope you can catch this, okay? We're like, oh, we need to know her secret. So we're going to get her on a Saturday call so she can tell everybody how she's able to book so many parties. So we get her on there and say, Jen, this is Jennifer Crowder, tell us how you book so many parties. She goes, I just can't say no. That was her answer. I just can't say no. Now, who can explain what was going on in her mindset and her world? Because in her mind, everybody wanted to do a party. So she had that belief system, and whatever you think is what you attract, and everybody wanted to do a party. And she's like, I just couldn't tell them no. So I keep doing parties because I couldn't tell no, because that was her mindset. So whatever your mindset is what you attract. And so, and Jen Audette, when she was asked about how she sponsored so many people, and she's like, I feel like I have like the Holy Grail. I feel like being able to have your own Scentsy business and have all this opportunity and all the travel and all the benefits that come with it is like the best, most precious gift. And how could I be so selfish and keep it to myself? So both of them were 100% heart, brain set on their belief systems about what they had to offer, and they could not share the blessing. So when you start focusing on what we have as a blessing, then you'll be the person growing an organization with thousands. And that's why your mindset and your belief, and that's why I love the book Flip Flop CEO. I recommend that all the time because it really helps you understand. And you know, a true pyramid is when the executives at the top make all the money and say, you can only ever earn, you know, $8 to $20 an hour, and we're going to take all the profits, right? And that's what regular Walmart, retail, whatever most people work at. So this idea that our type of profession is unfair, no, because no one sets our income but us, right? We can work 8 hours a day and make 100,000 times more than the person who's working for the pyramid CEO guy at the top who owns all the stocks and gets all the profits. But if that Flip Flop CEO book really helps, people start to understand that. And sometimes it's just a simple conversation. And so if someone's saying, well, it's a pyramid, say, well, how do you feel about the, Walmart greeter who, no matter how hard they work and how many hours they stand on their feet and how cold it is or hot it is standing in that doorway, and they only make the minimum wage, but the people who own Walmart make billions, and they're never standing in that on their feet all day, right? Well, they might have been in the beginning, but so just talking to people and sets them straight really quick. And here's the thing, no one will make as much on what you sell and do as you do. So people above you that you're thinking are making all the money, they're making at the most 5 to 9% on your TWV, right? But we're always making 30, 39, 41%, right? So no one makes more off of your efforts than you do. And sometimes that's a misconception. And that's why if you have enough people in your organization, then you seem like you're making all this money because you get a lot. And that's, a lot of people are afraid to give up their customers or their host or whatever, because they can see the big chunk they're missing right up front. They don't understand if they help enough people get what they want out of business, then that all adds up, right? So we might on average make $8 off of everybody, and they're making, hundreds of dollars off of their work, and we might be making 8. But if we have, 10 or 15, 20,000 that we're making $8 off of, then that outweighs it. So no one makes more off of any individual than the individual does. Felt like there was something else I really wanted to say in.
She has one more question. Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay, so she says, what advice would you give a new leader that they wouldn't know to ask or look for to grow in?
I just think they don't understand the value of calls and events. People who get on calls and events make 55 times more than those who don't. That's a big deal. It's been proven 55 times more if you're connected than those who don't. And just learning to not spend all your time trying to help someone who's always crying wolf. Well, it doesn't work. I've tried this. That doesn't work. Well, that doesn't work for me. Well, yeah, then find out what does, because there is always a way. And you can't help someone else get to the top without getting there yourself, right? But then also, until you've recruited 200 to 400 people or enough people to get the numbers that you want, then you have to keep doing till you get the results you want. Because sometimes you might look at my business with Callie and I and go, well, Callie seems to be doing all the work. Yeah, now she seems to be doing a lot of the work now. She's in the limelight and she'll put in her sweat equity. And instead of just getting paid really, really well, she also gets a great retirement plan because she gets the business. Most people work really, really well as a manager, maybe get a few bonuses or 401k or something, but they don't get to inherit the business, right? So just know you shouldn't have to work hard forever. You should set up systems and get a good assistant, and know that if you do the hard work and if you want it, do it massive action, make the sacrifice for a year or two, whatever it takes, and then you can just mostly manage that. And you manage that with help.
Well, I remember one of your videos when I first started was act like a director before you're, I don't know the exact title, but it really put my mindset in, okay, well, I know that's where I want to be. I want to be actually a superstar director. And not a lot of people know that. They don't even know what that means. I didn't know what that meant when I said I want to be a superstar director, but I knew that whatever Becca was providing, and I shared on the post that I shared yesterday about this call, is that there was a peace, there was a friendliness, a sweetness about her that I wanted in my life. And so I knew I needed to get the resources that Scentsy has to provide I need to go to the top. And so when I saw her video that said, you know, act like a director now, even though you may not have the title, but start doing the things that directors do. And everybody knows my story. I was broke as a joke, didn't even have 2 nickels to rub together when I started Scentsy. So I didn't have extra money to give away when I made a paycheck, but I knew I needed to start doing the things that directors and above do. So I took that sacrifice. And even though I was making I needed that money for my family, I was willing to sacrifice and put that money back into my business, because I knew that I didn't want to just be making a couple $100s a month. I wanted to make an empire. I wanted to grow this organization. And so once you make that decision and you know that each step that you're taking is for a bigger purpose, it's easier to make those sacrifices. And so things like I said is I would, you know, hire an assistant, and, you know, with my free credit, I would put some, you know, give them warmers. And then I did start to give a small salary. And there's people out there, college, you know, students. A lot of you have, you know, old enough kids that are they're smart enough to do the things that you need them to do. Like now, Allie was 15 months when I started, so I couldn't hand her over a bunch of catalogs and say, label these, because she'd probably stick them, I don't know, put a pony on them or something. But now that she's old enough, she does a lot of it. And I have my assistant do all of the stuff that Allie can't do and I don't want to do, which she has a skill in marketing. So I pair to do those things. But what I'm trying to say is that set up those systems, like Becca said, now. So when you become a director, your team is looking to you already as their leader. And then it's just a nice, smooth transition. And so as your business continues to grow, those systems are already helping you set that pace. So if you think like a director, it's going to happen. That's why, you know, Becca rose really fast. I made director in 4 months. It's because I knew where I wanted to be. And I watched the trainings and I made a commitment to myself, is that when I'm going to show up to calls, not just when I can. You have to make that decision as a business owner. You have to cross the threshold and say, okay, I want to make business money that I can rely on. I want to be a business owner, not just a smart shopper. There's a difference, because a business owner is going to make business decisions, investments in their business, and sacrifice. But the ones that do that are going to have a life that, again, you could only dream of. The ones that decide to not do that and they're too scared to make those sacrifices are going to continue to wish that they had the life and the freedom that others have.
And here's the thing too, everybody gets excited about becoming director, but you don't make any more money when you hit director generally. It's when you hit star director and superstar director. And I think that's really important, because we make a big deal about getting director, and it's important because it's the next step, but your money doesn't change as much. Now, one of my star directors was making $12,000 a month, but when she hit superstar director, she wasn't getting paid a lot. You don't get paid on your 3rd gen directors until you're a superstar director. And so her income like doubled and tripled when she hit the next level. So you just know that star and superstar director are where you're headed. And also, like, when I joined, I heard about Becky Priest, and she had a $65,000 a month check. And I just thought of all the good I could do with that, all the tithing I could pay, all the things I could do for my family with that. And she had 11 frontline directors. And Scentsy says you need 4 to hit superstar director, but not everybody always hits director numbers. And so I just had in my head, I needed at least 11, you know, and I didn't know that when I figured that out, that people didn't know that. So like Colette Ganell, one of the moms who started Scentsy, she got 4 directors and no one said or did the math. And so she thought that's all she needed. And she never made from her business what some of the rest of us have, because she thought 4 was all she needed. And then she put all of her time into her downline. When your most important thing is to continue blessing people's lives by always bringing in new people, so that when people leave, which they do for all kinds of crazy reasons, or promote out, you always have enough to do your team. Because there's a lot of superstar directors who've been around for a long time that don't have enough directors to replace when someone's, you know, having a life crisis, so they're not working their business. So you always want more to that, or enough team members to hit their 10,000. So you just want to be in the mindset. And like I said, once you hit it, like I remember Chuck telling me, Becca, you have over 400 frontline. It's kind of irresponsible now for you to keep sponsoring, because it takes a lot of work to support that many frontline and that many organizations. So, you know, you'll find that what you do in your business changes, but that keeping a large front lines and enough directors is something that you want to know. So just keep, all of these things are good to know because they give you a target and an idea to hit, but don't focus on that. Just focus on asking who needs the blessings Scentsy has to offer, whether that's just to get out of the house, whether that's to gain confidence, whether that's to learn that there's good in the world, whether that's to just get a positive community, whether that's to get a honeymoon they couldn't afford because they went a trip, whether that's to earn $300 a month, or to be someone that can earn enough to, you know, start an orphanage. You don't know. But if you just ask with a really authentic, unattached heart, who can I serve with Scentsy? Then you'll find that those people start coming. And if you're trying to convince and hold on to what you have over here and being frustrated because these are your 98 percenters and you're thinking they should be your 2 percenters, your hands are closed and you're not open to bring in the people who are your 2 percenters. So never do this so much with your mindset and your worry and trying to convince and force that you don't stay open and trusting the bigger plan, which will support you to be a 2 percenter by helping everybody be what they need. Does that make sense? And if you start to do that, you won't be so stressed and so worried. You just think about being the puzzle piece to connect the person to what they need. And you'll find that things start to flow in and out, and it will feel good to everybody.
Okay. I think this was an amazing call. Any last, just because we've been on this long anyways, any last questions with that being said that you want to ask? You can unmute yourself or type. All right. Well, Becca, thank you so much for sharing all your words of wealth and love. And because Becca brought up this Flip-Flop CEO, if you email me 8 things you learned, you'll be put into a drawing to win that book. I will mail it to you because it is an amazing book. She recommended it to me. I think at the airport, we were in some country, I don't know where, but I remember we were on an incentive trip and we were talking in the airport and she mentioned that book and it was an amazing book. So make sure you email me and we'll see who gets to get one on its way. Lots of questions.
Thanks, Shauna.
All right.
Melissa, let's see. And if you have to go, you can go, you know. For me, I'm telling you, The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkinson was one of my favorite books because you've never read that one. Yeah, because it shows you that you're always going to have border bullies. You're always going to have an obstacle. And that when sometimes it seems like everything's being taken away from you, it's that same thing, right? It's just opening it up for better. Like I say to people leave, bless them, and trust that maybe the one person when they're gone is making room for you to help 3 people who are supposed to take your advice and leadership. You know, while you're trying to force it on someone who's not supposed to, you're not open to the people that you could be helping that shares your same vision. And a lot of people don't know yet. Like so many people will say, and one last thing I think is really important. Most people in the world shy away from talking about the income opportunity. And still, like just even 2 weeks ago, there was a thread on the SSD page, which nobody talks about money in this company, you know? And I just need to know what's possible. I mean, I don't even know. Do people make 500 a month? They make 1,000? Like, you hear big money in this? And several people got on that thread and said, well, I watched Becca Levi's 30-day excuse buster video, and she talked about a $50,000 a month check. And one said specifically, I was a superstar consultant and so frustrated that I was working and giving and nothing was happening. I was about to go out the door. My leader said, go watch Becca's videos. She mentioned 50,000. I'm an SSD today because someone told me what was possible. And so I just try to always say, guys, just know it's possible. If it's not part of your journey and you don't need it, that's fine. But did you know that it could be? And so many people all the time say, thank you for letting me know, because now I'm doing really well and I wouldn't have because I didn't know what was possible. So don't be afraid to share what's possible, because a lot of people are here because of that, myself included.
So go find that excuse buster video that Becca did.
Yeah, Jess will find the link and post it.
Yes. Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you for hanging in there. If you're on Facebook watching, I'm sorry, it's hard. I can't see. So any questions that weren't answered, we'll make sure to get them answered for you. But thank you.
And I
all.
just want to tell Sandra, she would smile and laugh sometimes, and it just made my day. So thank you. Was it Sandra or Shonda? Yeah. And I haven't seen you and your adorable kids for too long.
Nina.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Give Ralph a hug and keep on that trajectory, Susan. And now who's this?
She's on Susan's team. That's Shauna. She's
Oh,
the one
hey.
that said she felt guilty about the house cleaning, but now she feels good about it.
Yeah, you're just a blessing. You're blessing people.
And Shonda's on Nina's team.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah. All right, ladies, we love you. Hi, Nadia. All right, have a good. Hi. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. We will see you next week.
Bye, Crystal.
Bye. Bye, Crystal.